fun, Mr. Sinister. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome everybody to Atomic Mass Transmissions Live. Today, we're going to be painting up one Mr. Nathaniel Essex, also known as Mr. Sinister. I'll tell you what, I've been so excited to paint this miniature. I think he's really fun in the game, and I'm stoked to be here today and get going on this and chat with y'all and just get to painting. So without further ado, let's get to painting. I'm going to switch over to the minicam. Boom, minicam. Whoop. So there we go, one Mr. Nathaniel Essex. I left the cape off for painting. As you can see here, the cape is actually two parts. They kind of piggyback on top of one another, and then they clip into the slot here on the back of him. As you can see the keys there. I did the black outside, the red inside, and then I glued this together, set this aside, that way I can get his back. I typically don't paint in parts, but I really feel like for this in particular, I really wanted to have this off. I want to get back here to his back, his legs, and maybe throw a little glow from the awesome rejuvenation tank on his metals. So let's get started. I'm going to start with his face, and he has this really cool white pallid skin tone. I need a little white out on my palette. I got a ton of colors out here. I've got a couple different greens, grays, blues. I've got some metallics, white, black. I got some reds and orange. I don't know exactly what we'll get to today, but we're going to get to something. First off, I'm going to take a little bit of skin tone, just a touch of skin tone, and I'm going to mix it into some blue and white. And I want to get that real creepy alien-esque feel to my Mr. Sinister. I'm going to use this as a base coat. Just like that. And this just adds a little bit of that skin tone. I just picked a random pale flesh color. It doesn't even have to be flesh color. It's not even flesh color. Every color is flesh color. Just a pale peach. And I just mixed it into that white and a little bit of blue to cool it down. And it adds that little bit of warmth. So you know he's alive, but it's going to feel a little off. And I think that's what makes Mr. Sinister so unique and interesting looking. He's got a lot of really, really unique features. So when you have a character that has those unique features, it's a lot of fun to like exaggerate those and really lean into them. So that's a good start. I'm going to take, while that dries, I'm going to grab some silver. I'm grabbing the brightest silver I possibly can. Just a really high silver. What's this called? Thrash metal. Oh, no. I grabbed heavy metal from scale 75. It's a really, really bright silver. And I'm going to paint that on the bands. And what we're going to do is we're going to use some glazes and stuff, and we're going to make a really neat blue metallic for this. So how's everybody today? Are you painting? Are you joining in? Are you just watching? Hopefully you're caught up on your Crisis Protocol or trying to catch up on your Crisis Protocol. Maybe last week you caught the ridiculous game between me and Mr. Will Schick as I tried to remember how to play a non-playtest game, playing with characters who I haven't played since playtest, like a year ago. That was a lot of fun. hopefully we can do more of that. And it was also a lot of fun getting those miniatures ready for that game. Getting to paint up a full X-Force was really exciting. And so the fun of painting miniatures is kind of making things your own and doing your take. So, I'll probably do another Cable sometime. Probably another Domino sometime. But doing that fully themed out X-Force was a lot of fun to knock out, especially the Wolverine. Everybody's trying to catch up. Phantom X is painting Kingpin. Great name, Phantom X. Painting Kingpin. Kingpin's great. I have a second Kingpin I want to finish up. Lots of terrain. Yeah, I got lots of terrain too. I still have not finished my cars for my core set, and I can't believe that. I've had those cars for a long time, and I just have not finished those. I keep getting distracted by other things. Okay, here in the shadows, I don't care if it's perfectly covered. It doesn't matter. Let's go back to the skin. I want to take a little bit of gray. This is the rainy gray. I really kind of fallen in love with this color. I want to use this and start shading. So just like if I was painting any miniature that we've talked about, if you watched my streams or the skin tones class I did over the mini extravaganza, I'm going to use some of the same philosophy. I'm going to put this is just now my shade color, my first shade, to establish form of the face. And it's like a nice little gray to go against that white skin. Gamers Web UK, what is up? How's it going? Tim the Boss is in here. Tarnium's in here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. You have no idea how excited I am for Mr. Sinister. Boy, oh boy. I want to see. Okay. Now we're going to let that dry. Now we're going to switch back. We're going to use the exact same gray. We're going down to the metal. And just like if you watched my metalosity, we're going to use this. This is the same gray. We're going to pull it out over top of the shiny metals. And what this does is remove reflectiveness, right? And as you learned, if you watch the metalosity, in the shadows of metal, you want to lose reflectiveness, because that's what makes it more reflective. What makes it more metal, right? Increase the metalosity. And by using this warm gray, we're going to tie that back to the skin. Just kind of sketch that down in those shadows there. This is just going to make it way cooler. Affiliations for Mr. Sinister. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm sure we're going to talk about that soon enough. What I will say is he has one of the weirdest tactic cards, and I love it. I don't want to say too much. I'm not here to spoil. We're here to paint. I get in trouble if I spoil without permission. Not like Schick, who's a loose cannon. He's a reckless one. And if I remember correctly, I think Pagani designed the rules for Mr. Sinister. So Pagani likes the weird characters. Yeah, Mr. Sinister studying that DNA, the Summers DNA, because that's what he does. He's a loose cannon with a short fuse. That's what they say about Mr. Wilczek. What were we talking about? We were saying something important. Let's get around here. Same process. Just anywhere that was dark is now this gray color. There we go. Love this process. A lot of fun. And the arms. Get those on the side of those beefy biceps. So interesting with when designing Mr. Sinister. It's just like, what Mr. Sinister, because there's several different Mr. Sinisters. That's his shape, right? There's like a really skinny version of Mr. Sinister. There's the bulky versions. I feel like we kind of hit like a little in the middle. Is what I was imagining. Instead of that classic feel when we were designing him. And I absolutely love this like rejuve / cloning vat. I think this makes for like a really lovely story and art piece. Like, you want to talk about something for the worthy to tell a story and go all out on painting. Don't worry, it won't look like that for long there, Shrill Crow. We got an angle here. We're gonna do some glazes and some. Okay. Yeah, the Infernal run. Yeah. Oh, I know who's on this. I know who's running the AMG. That's a Josh. That's a Josh. Let's take a little blue, a little gray. Let's mix it together. Let's do those deep shadows on the skins. Oh yeah, some green OSL, like that's what it's about. I can't wait to see what everybody does with this this miniature. I think this leads a lot of potential. Like we can get philosophical. Like I think when you're kind of designing miniatures, you got to have a breadth, like a scope of kind of actions, right? So even though we're making a actiony duke 'em out game, right? Where you got superheroes doing super things. If everybody's punching, it's not interesting. So I like to, when we're coming up with poses, we like to have like a little variety, so I think that this is definitely one of those ones that's like kind of fun and interesting. That he's stepping out of the vat. Like even on the battlefield, like I imagine one Mr. Sinister could have some sort of device that he can pop out and rejuve or something. Just tells a little story in the thick of battle. Because remember, they are in a battle. Let's take some pure white. Oh, I'm getting in the zone here. Getting in the zone. Yeah, different tones. You can do all kinds of different stuff with the vat. Purple, and you can add OSL. You cannot add OSL. It just provides a lot of to me, a lot of very interesting options for hobbyists. All right, let's go a little darker. Take a little brown, take a little blue, take a little gray. We want to lean into the blue just a bit. Shrowcrow, do you have a brush with paint and a brush with water? I have a brush with paint and a damp brush. I use the damp brush to draw out and soften the edges of the paint. Typically called two brush blending is the technique. Although I still contend that I haven't actually done what I consider true two brushing in a long time. True two brush uses much thicker paint. You want a nice thick paint. Love thick paint. But Gunny loves it when I go on my rant about how you can always, it's easy to thin paint, but it's not easy to thick paint. So I don't like paints that are really, really thin out of the bottle. I like paints that are really, really thick out of the bottle, because I can thin it. If I had paints that are really, really thin out of the bottle and I need to do something that requires thick paint, I lose that option. I don't like losing options. It's no fun. This is brown and blue mixed together. A little touch of gray. This is the deep shade for my metallics. Eventually this metallic will be blue, actually. Just you wait and see. Just you wait and see. Gooey Tree, not familiar with Mr. Sinister. Not sure we'll have to go on the smoke, purple and green mix. That could be really cool. I'm probably going to maintain the green. A lot of Mr. Sinister art, like his lab is always shown with a lot of green, weird devices and gadgets and stuff like that. You go back and read about him if you want to learn more. It's a X-Men. It's like in the early 200s was his first appearance, I think, if I remember correctly. Can't remember everybody's first appearances, but sometimes I do. Always remember Wolverine's first appearance. I had a chance to buy a really cruddy copy of Hulk 181. I think I told the story. And it was in pretty rough shape. And I just didn't buy it. I was just like, it's pretty rough shape. And now I'm like, nah, I should have bought it. Alright, this is looking cool. Yeah, low grade is better than no grade. I was in my 20s, I was brash. That was a long time ago. Alright. This is just a process. I'm just having fun. Not trying to press anybody with this. Just trying to get it done on the table. Have fun painting it. That's all that matters. So if it's a little messy, it's a little messy. We got most of those muscle groups all defined now. Here and there. One step back, take a look, see if there's anything stands out in my eyes. Let's darken that side. Spin him around. Sometimes you just gotta step back, spin him around. He's such a fun character, right? Like, you knew, like, some no-goodery was about to go down when Sinister appeared in the comics. Like, he has some really dark ideas and philosophies on things, and like he's a really scary villain. I didn't hear lately he's like been on Kuroka with the X-Men. He actually, spoiler, holds a position on a council, and a really great version of him currently. But this is definitely the more villainous take. The version of Sinister that should terrify you. Oh yeah, it's a comic. You gotta suspend disbelief. It's supposed to be a fun story. Alright. I'm digging that. I like that. Let's do Hold Your Blue. You know what's coming, kids. I'm going to pull that out. Also got some, let's do this real quick. I got some more traditional primary blue. I'm going to pull out some primary blue and a whole lot of glazed medium. Let's put some very bright primary blue here and there. Now, we talk a whole lot about painting for the destiny of the miniature. And if this was a competition miniature, I'd be thinking, or a studio miniature even, I would be thinking a whole lot more about the placement of these colors and how much they matter. This is, for me, this is mine, and I'm just hanging out and sharing with y'all. So I don't care as much about the placement of these colors. I'm just going to pick some areas that I think will be visually interesting. And I'm just going to go with it. A gold version of Mr. Sinister? I'm in. Who said that? I lost it. Oh, Gavin. Gavin, challenged. You're challenged. I want to see gold Sinister. Should never volunteer for things in public. Haven't we learned this? So anyways, I'm just going to pick and choose kind of random places that I just think will have some blue. You know? Like I said, I'm choosing the Destiny, and the Destiny's the tabletop. If this was, like I was saying, if this was a studio miniature, I'd be more careful. If it was a competition for the Worthy, I'd be even more careful because, you know, but I know the judge and he's real picky. He's not real picky. I mean, he is. But. So he's just going to build in some blues over top of that gray. And that's going to give us all this lovely depth and definition to that form. How many pieces? Lord asks, how many pieces? Off top of my head, I don't quite remember. I don't have an exact. It's been a while since I assembled them. Arm, leg, torso, head, collar, cape, and then this is, I think, 3 or 4 pieces. The vat. The cape is only 2 parts. So I'm just stretching that out over and over. Kind of like glazing. Yeah, he's the Doctor of Doom. Gavin gets it. Just keep building that blue. Glazing over top of the metal to make it beautiful. As we paint all day with our friends. Mm-hmm. Alright, is this making sense to y'all? What do you think? Give me your thoughts. Let me hear what you're thinking. And if I get on his belt or stuff, I don't particularly care. I'm just going to paint that all red. The belt's red, so. Alright, we're going to use this exact same. Oh, we haven't done this arm yet. Yeah, I'm using a Lodge. I'm using a brush loaded with blue paint. I got it actually not. I'm pulling paint off a wet palette, putting it on a dry palette. The dry palette has a blob of mixed medium. Mixed medium just thins paint without losing without losing viscosity. Like, so it keeps it kind of thick. And there's several different companies and brands that make a mixed medium or glazed medium. And then I use a second brush that's damp to push the paint where I want it and control the flow, as they say. The underside of the arm needs to be very, very blue. And the reason I'm doing that is I want it very translucent. I want translucency because I want that metallic grays in the metal to shine through, so you get that metallic feel to his body. Just re-emphasize it one more time. So I'm kind of glazing, kind of control washing at the same time here. That's really what I'm doing. Remember, a glaze, think of glazes like a photo filter. So it's just like a translucent film going over light that you can see completely through, changing the color of whatever you're looking at through it. A wash is designed, the washes are just paints that go into crevices to create contrast. So this is sort of a hybrid. I'm glazing over the whole area, but I want the blue down in the crevices of the metal banding. So I'm kind of able to, by controlling what I'm doing with the second brush, I'm able to really get a distinct and unique effect. And this arm needs that one more hit of blue. Come from this side. Awkward, awkward, awkward. Up and over. There we go. Now we're talking. You Spartan 318. You can, there are glazes and like this is all up to you. It's your miniature, it's your story, it's your character. You can create any color you want. I like to say I'm not here to teach you what to paint. I'm here to teach you how to paint. So what to paint would be like, no, you have to do blue. This is the process for painting Mr. Sinister. And I am not a fan of that philosophy. I'm more of a, this is how I approach painting. And all these colors are interchangeable. All these colors can be replaced. All these colors can be the colors you choose. We're thinking more philosophically about why am I doing it, not what am I doing. So that's why we try to paint a wide range of stuff on the streams. So like if this was a red Mr. Sinister, I would probably do like say I wanted red metal Mr. Sinister or magenta, right? I'd probably do the exact same thing with the metal. I'd do grays and stuff to create that metallosity. And then I would probably go into like a purple wash, right? Or a magenta wash, and then a purple wash. And then highlight with like a very pink metal. So there's all kinds of ways to do the thing you want to do. It's really up to you. It's your miniature, it's your destiny. You choose the destiny of the miniature. It's your paint journey. We're all here together on the same journey, just different points of the same path, and hopefully we can all support and help one another along that journey. That's the goal, right? As humans, we're social communal creatures, so hopefully we can help each other along and be supportive. And wise man once said, believe in the me that believes in you, and I like to say that all the time to the sculpting staff and the engineering staff and art staff. So there's all kinds of ways to paint. There's no wrong way. It's your story. What's been so fun about working on these, watching everybody get their miniatures and tell their stories. We provide a palette and some starting points, and then you can take it wherever you want to go. So this costume is like a blue-black. I'm going to put in all that blue. Same thing, just glazing over it. All paint types are, paints are versatile. Like, that's why I said I like a thick paint, not a thin paint. If I got a thick paint, I can make any paint into a wash. I can make any paint into a glaze. I can make any paint into a dry brush. Like, it's all technique. Okay. A little darker right there. Those gloves, not too bad, not too bad, not too bad. Kevirnimir, I can't pronounce that. Thank you for your early advice, learning so many tips by watching you. I'm not sure what advice I gave you, but you're very welcome. All right, let's have fun. So I know I'm going to paint this smoke green. So before we put in our next blue, let's put in some greens. We're just going to put this right over the metals. We're going to do the exact same thing. Except for instead of going from the shadows up like we were doing with our blues, we're going to go from the highlights down to the shadows. Just so some interesting spots of yellow. This is all I'm doing. Nothing real fancy. Like I said, nothing fancy. This is for me on the tabletop. We're just going to have a little fun. Is it going to look perfect? Nah. Oh, yeah. Hey, Chris. Awesome. Thanks for joining in. I'm more than happy to help anytime. It's awesome to have you on our little family here. Like I said, we're all on different points of the same path, so don't compare yourself to another painter. You don't know how many fails I've had as a painter, right? So when you see a paint job, you know, like a studio paint job, and you're like, I'll never be that good. One time that studio painter felt the exact same way. And I've learned, I'm not even a studio painter anymore. I'm just talking from experience. But that philosophy is just a good philosophy, right? It's like that. You know you're going to mess up, and it's okay to mess up. Like I said, I got tons of... I don't like to use the word fail, but I'm going to use it as like I guess a descriptor. Even though I really, really hate that word, because I don't believe that that's I don't believe it's the actual word I want. Because like I paint something and I might not like it, but I learned something from it. That's all that matters. All right, we're starting to block that in. Let's go to that Hold Your Blue I talked about. Yeah, they're learning experiences, right? They're not fails. They're lessons. And I think that that's a very important distinction. Is like they're learning lessons. They're my first miniatures, I didn't even know you were supposed to prime them. I had literally no clue. No one told me. Hold your blue. Like sometimes you feel like you're not learning. That's called the plateau. And that's a very wonderful place to be. When you have that moment and you're like, I'm not learning anything, I'm not getting better. Take a step, take a stop, take a moment and be like, wait, maybe that's because I'm on the verge of the learn. I'm on the edge of the lesson. Right? So that lesson might be right around the corner. So now it's the time to keep going, to keep painting, drawing, whatever you want to do in life. That's the time to push. That's not the time to give up. I mean, there's never a time to give up, but. So hold your blue. I'm putting this over all the elements. This is over the silvers. This is over the cloth. And I blocked in that green, and that little bit of green is going to shine through. And if I want to re-accentuate it, I can come back to it. But it kind of let me have that starting point. Now it's starting to feel like Mr. Sinister. So if you got questions, now it's time to ask me. I'm just kind of painting away, and you got my undivided attention, gang. I'm here for you. Like I said, I'm using the same color over the cloth, and because there's no metal under the cloth, it's going to make it very distinct. Right, so even though I'm using the same colors, there's a different process. It's going to make each stand out from one another. Cloud Runner 79. Since I started painting MCP and model miniatures, I've challenged myself with new ways of painting. I feel like I've rocked up a step forward with my paint and love doing it even more. You're very welcome. That's awesome to hear. That's what it's about right there. Josh is running a board, and there's a line I like to tell people. So, do you know what my most favorite painted miniature I've ever seen is? Anyone? You might have heard me say this before. Who knows? Just putting blue on the underoos. The one you just finished. That's right. It's the one you just finished. I love seeing anything you finished, the royal you. I think that's always just one of my most favorite miniatures, is something somebody just finished and they're super, super proud of. That's an amazing miniature. Like, yeah, there's miniatures out there that are pieces of art, and I love them, and I admire them. I get real excited when I look at them. But there's something about seeing somebody run up and just be like, I just finished this. And it doesn't matter what they think it looks like. All I see is a finished miniature and somebody proud of the time they put into it. And to me, that's the best. Like, can it be improved? Maybe. If that's what they want. Maybe it's just for tabletop and it doesn't need to be improved. If you want to be a competition or a studio painter, then there's always room for improvement. And then I'm happy to have that conversation. But man, a tabletop, just run up and just be like, look at this miniature I just painted. I love those. Those are my favorites. The tips of my brushes start to fray. Yours look trust me, mine is frayed. Mine's a mess. It's learning brush control and learning what matters. I use cheap brushes. I use expensive brushes. I'm a mess. Half the time, I actually don't even know what size brush I'm using, because I just kind of grab stuff. So the color for this was silver, gray, brown, then blues. Yeah. Yes, that's correct, Tim. As I use those silvers, I use those grays and browns to build depth and increase the metallosity of the silver. So when the blue goes over top, that shines through because we're glazing. So you can see the work underneath it. It might not be super visible, but the eye knows it's there. Everybody's talking about Sinister's first appearance. I'm pretty sure he was, like, I feel like they talked about him, like, but didn't show him. Is that right? It's been a while since I've busted out my Uncanny collection and read through it. And then Apocalypse was first appeared in X Factor, but I'm pretty. This was Sinister was Uncanny. It's really dark in this backside. The collar. Uncanny 221. Now what I'll do on the cloth, remember we used the same colors, right? We did the silver and the grays and all that to create silver. And then we used the primary blue and the holder blue sort of equally over the cloth and the metal. And then the next step will be to differentiate them even further. And what I'll do there is shade the cloth with black. But I'll keep black paint off the metal, because the metal's been shaded before we even put the blue on it, and that was the point of all that. Sort of establish all that shading and highlight in the metallic surface before coloring. He's so villainous. Mikey, it's a preview, just like a movie preview. I'd ship them to you today if I could. That's not my job, sorry. Any plans for different bases? There's always like talks of different things, but not anything. No plans. There's never plans. We don't have plans. I always say the bases are they're pretty blank, really. Like if you want unique bases, these are pretty blank. Treat them like a blank. If you want space bases, cover the concrete. Like that totally works. Schick did a whole video about it. I might be planning a project that covers them and does something different with them. Like they're just plastic. Everything is a blank canvas to a hobbyist. There we go. I said Chick was a loose cannon, but let's be real. I'm just as much. I love the idea that Sinister has some sort of device that, you know, maybe it's like really tiny, some sort of tiny device that he calls in and he just brings it and it drops in the middle of the battlefield, or something like that. Like, I can totally see that story, right? Or that action happening in my head in a comic book panel, right? He has some sort of device, you know, or maybe the crisis, you know, remember this is a crisis, everything's a battlefield. You know, maybe he was experimenting, you know, on some poor fools publicly. Like, he was just doing it, right? Why not? That's how he had to do it. And the heroes had to show up to take him out. There's so many stories that you can just tell. You know, they're not just random rocks and stuff. It's a battlefield. There's a crisis going on. So things are being broken, destroyed. They're calling stuff in. Plus, it's fun also sometimes to just tell like a you know, they're miniatures. They're there to represent a character in an interesting, you know, in an interesting way. So sometimes it's fun to do something a little artistic and like fun. Just be like, you know what? He's got his little vat. It's dope. R.D. Jones, there's not another leg. Yeah, Tim the Boss, a vat disguises phone box. Why not? Like, it's comic books. The cape, Atomic Mass, is 2 parts. I glued mine. I went ahead and I painted it red and black as per what Sinister looks like. And then I went ahead and glued it together, and I left it off for painting because I wanted to paint up some glow on his back. Make him more interesting. Holy cow, I went over, but I got all my blues done. So the next step will be to put black in the cloth, but not on the metals. So I'm going to shade the cloth one more time, but then I'm going to highlight the metals with bright silver to bring back some of that sheen. I'm doing little dots here and there to kind of show you what I'm thinking of. Right? Before we close it out, we're going to close it out real soon, trust me. But like, that's the next step. Let's start bringing back in those metal glints and stuff. On the metal and the shade the black one more time. And then we can start with the really wonderful, my favorite part, the green smokes. Start building that in and everything. And then soon enough, we're going to have Mr. Sinister looking menacing and awful in like a super villain way. Hopefully not a painting way. Although if it comes out awful, it comes out awful. That's what, you know, sometimes that happens. And he's going to look super on the tabletop. about to wreck some face. Like I said, he's got a tactic card that I'm absolutely in love with. It's ridiculous and amazing all at the same time. So, super looking forward to it. There's a little teaser. I believe the plan is we will be back to finish him off. I'm just going to do a little more red as I'm chatting. Ask me questions really, really quick before they kick me off the stream. Teaser. It's red. I'm pretty happy with the amount of time we put into him. I think we can finish him in 2 hours on stream, which isn't really 2 hours, and then finish up the base later. Feeling pretty confident. Feeling pretty good. What do y'all think? Yes, the most glamorous of cloaks. All right, let's switch back over to this one. Hello. All right, so remember every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have Atomic Mass Transmissions Live. Join tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for Mr. John Schaefer. He'll be painting up something super, super fun. And Tuesday, join in Mr. Will Schick. He'll be painting up something super, super fun. Yes, we will be back to wrap up Mr. Sinister. It's always the worst part. It's like all week I get to sit there and he's sitting on my desk. I'm like, I could finish that, but then I gotta remember we're not going to finish that. So until next time, keep on painting and keep being the hero that you want to be. So until next time, be safe and goodbye, everybody. And now it's time when I sing the song that says that we're ending the stream. It's almost over. Painting Mr. Sinister. That's done. Boom.